Deaths and kills have many common threads between them, and if you are dying in Apex Legends way more than you'd like to be, then we gotta dive a bit deeper into this. I mean, are matches just becoming way more difficult for you to win in, or let alone get some decent kills? Well, I hate to say it, but good, because in this video, I'm going to highlight 7 of the most common reasons most players continuously die in Apex. Me personally, I've never died in Apex Legends. Well, I mean, yeah, that's not completely true. I die all the time, but I've learned to die a lot less, and in turn, stack up way more kills. This video is designed to help all players of any skill, so let's get into it. The first reason is poor positioning in fights. If you are constantly in bad positions during engagements, you will see a lot of deaths. And it's hard to articulate what is the best positioning during every fight because there's so many factors that play a part. I'm always assessing the geography of where I'm at for many reasons. I try never to take fights when I'm on low ground and the opponents have high ground. We all know high ground is king, but if you are stuck on the low ground, try to get directly underneath that team that is above you. This will either completely erase their line of sight on you, or it will be very awkward for them to shoot straight down on you. The more of a diagonal angle they have on you, the worse it is for you if you're on the low ground. Always try to be establishing some cover when the fight is beginning. This is so you can hopefully avoid taking a lot of damage, but also be more difficult to hit while you output damage during the beginning stages. Then you can move away from that cover once you have a clear advantage like a crack in their armor or some isolation with an opponent. Some of you have heard me discuss about these advantages and disadvantages to be aware of, but it must be an ongoing evaluation of every fight and every detail. Now, on the topic of poor positioning, one great tip I will give you is to constantly be repositioning. If you aren't doing this, you will soon see how effective this technique can be in a lot of situations. And I'll challenge you, as you watch my clips in this video, watch how often I reposition and use it to my advantage. Number 2 is game awareness, and this is probably the main reason players tend to die a lot. Game sense is not something one is equipped with when they begin Apex. I mean, I guess there could be some commonalities that transfer from one shooter game to the other, but when the going gets tough, you gotta have good game sense in the Apex world. This game will quickly humble you if you don't understand what's happening to you or your teammates at all times. Now, I talk about game sense in most of my videos because, well, frankly, it deserves your attention. However, I don't believe I've shared this specific tip on one way I've increased my game sense. I have and continue to solo queue a lot in Apex, and as we know, most randoms don't use voice communication. But Apex did a great job with adding dialogue volume between the different legends. And this subtle yet extremely helpful aspect can help you understand more of what's going on in each moment. Your teammates' legends will tell you just about every broad thing they're doing, ranging from when they're shooting at someone or when they're getting shot at or taking damage, also using their different abilities, whether it's their tactical or their ultimate. They also tell you about whether you guys are in the ring or not, and as of recently, they added when an opponent lands near one of them or when they crack somebody's armor. Now, when the legend calls out that they cracked an armor, they won't tell you which legend they did it to, but if you can quickly glance at the kill feed in the right-hand corner of your screen, it will tell you there. It should read something like teammate A broke armor on Loba. You could use this to develop a better angle on the one your teammate just did damage to. It takes a little while to get used to what the dialogue quips sound like and what they mean, but over time, I have really utilized this feature to learn more information during the games that I play with randoms. Number 3 is you're probably not team firing opponents. So one of the quickest ways great players stack up multiple kills and ultimately minimize their deaths is by team firing their opponents. Now, generally this is more for a ranked scenario, but it certainly could carry over to your pub games, especially if you're more often squatted up with your friends. See, in Apex, when you have to deal 200 plus damage to knock just one enemy, that can be an insanely difficult task. However, if you split that 200 damage among you and your teammates, it becomes much easier. And that one opportunity you all create should result in a fairly easy knock. This is what all high-level players do when they have the chance to. This one aspect single-handedly changes the fights in Apex. Why? Well, Apex has a long time to kill, and there aren't really any other ways to speed it up, especially when your opponents have good armor. So whether you solo queue or you play with a squad, try to focus on team firing opponents when possible. And if you do solo queue a lot like I do, then I'm always very conscious of where my teammates are shooting and who I think they're shooting at. And as a result of the information that I gather from that, I try to then create similar angles that would be of assistance to them. The fourth reason is you're probably underutilizing your Legends abilities. Mastering one Legends abilities is a difficult task in Apex, especially when you progress through different elos of players. But a huge reason why great players stay alive and in turn stack up multiple kills is through mastering their Legends kit. Every legend in this game has a skill gap, whether it's big or small. And the more time you spend learning these legends that you play often, the better equipped you will be during fights or rotations or really anything. In turn, you should know which specific situations you want to be in as that legend. For instance, when I'm playing as Caustic and I see an enemy team in a building, I know that this is where I want to find them. I can use my gas to box them into a corner and eventually send them back to the lobby. However, if I'm Pathfinder, I don't want to have a lot of indoor fights because I probably won't have too many opportunities to be utilizing my grapple in those buildings. The bottom line is specifics matter, so play to your legend's strengths. The fifth reason is you've got to know when to run from a fight, or at the very least, reposition. See, how long a fight should last is really a vital factor in Apex, and this isn't just about game sense here, but it really does play a huge factor in all of our games. Now, this is another one that is vital for ranked, where players tend to play more strategically than in pubs, but it still applies to both game modes. See, very commonly during coaching sessions, I will see players be unsure about if it's the right fight to take or not. And to be totally straight up with you, there's a ton of factors to be considered there. But a good rule of thumb is the 30-second rule. If that initial part of the fight lasts more than 30 seconds without any clear opening or advantage, then I would heavily consider backing up from that fight, or at the very least repositioning. A lot of players in rank tend to hit a wall, and I can tell you it fundamentally centers around which fights to take and which ones to leave be. So if you're struggling with this, I would strongly suggest starting to critically think about if you already have KP and if you need to take this fight. Be very cognizant of the squads left alive, what time in the match is it, how many teams you think are in the area, what armors you may have identified on that opposing team, and what armors your teammates have. Everything plays a factor here, and if you're not looking for the details, you will end up getting sent back to the lobby. Number 6 is you've got to learn to play your life at times. See, in order to minimize a lot of these unnecessary deaths, we got to talk about playing your life. A lot of players tend to do this whether they're playing with randoms or it's their best friends, but it's a huge issue. As soon as one of their teammates gets knocked, the remaining player just rushes in trying to save the day and often overlooks any strategic approach to taking the fight. The most common issue I see is if one teammate goes down, the remaining 2 teammates who are still alive tend to end up doing their own thing and not play together. This is a huge shortcoming you will want to overcome if you want to win in those disadvantaged fights. So group up and play tight together with your remaining teammate if one of your mates goes down. The easiest way teams win fights is when they get a 3-on-1 3 separate times. It's kind of crazy how common this is because I see it from every player I've ever coached at one time or another. Everyone wants to be a good teammate and to be helpful to the one who just got knocked, but I'm encouraging you to think about how to achieve that goal from a different light. One that consists of you being able to win that disadvantaged fight and either revive your mate or at least get their banner, instead of the more common outcome, which is dying and having to go next. Number 7 is you're probably lacking in some gun skill. Now, obviously, the pinnacle of staying alive and getting more kills centers around your gun skill. Contrary to what some may believe, this is what will play the biggest role in all of Apex. There's a lot of little things that can add up and make big differences when it comes down to getting comfortable and being proficient with the weapons in this game. Things like what your settings and sensitivity are to what weapons you tend to pick up, and which weapons are meta during that specific time period or season. Also, how you and your team tend to take fights. If you're sniping because you enjoy sitting back at a comfortable position and taking pot shots, then it will be hard when you get up close to opponents if your secondary is the only viable option for that close range fight. And the same concept works on the flip side. If both of your weapons are super close range guns, then any fight that isn't 30 meters or less, you will be hindered in and probably not be able to achieve much. But I've got good news. If you're interested in a more in-depth dive on how to improve your aim in Apex, I suggest you click on this video here. Thanks for watching. Peace.